Good. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. This is San Diego City College Council meeting where we meet with our constituency groups. And my name is Tilly Chavez. I'm the Vice President of Instruction. I'm sitting in for President Shabazz today. And I have a wonderful group of individuals that'll help me keep in line with the protocol if I go off track. So do I need to start over, right? Or not yet? Okay, thank you, Caesar. So today we're going to start off. This is the group that meets with other constituency groups. If you have questions out there, please meet with your representatives. You'll see who they are here, or you can also connect with somebody that's on the committee as a committee member. We're going to go ahead and get started with our roll call. And Paul Alexander, our past president, Academic Senate. I'll go ahead and say present for myself as the Vice President of Instruction and also filling in for Dr. Shabazz. Aaron Deddy is our Administrative Representative.
Present.
Genevieve Esquera is our Acting Vice President Designee for Student Services.
Present.
Robbie Ewell, our Chair of Institutional Technology Council Representative.
Present.
Cesar Gumapas, Public Information Officer.
Present.
Jocelyn Hill, Supervisory Representative.
Present.
Nadia Mandalawi, our President of Chairs Cabinet.
Present.
Susan Murray, Dean of Institutional Effectiveness and our Chair of MPROC.
Present.
Darius Spearman, our President of Academic Senate. I'm not sure that he's here today. John Parker, Vice President of Administrative Services.
Present.
And our Student Government ASG Representative, Josh Pottinger. I'm not sure if I'm going to get that right. Can you help me out, Josh?
Yes, Josh Pottinger, present.
Got it. Great. We now also have Sean Ryan. Welcome, our President of Classified Senate.
Hi, present.
Thank you. So now that we've got our roll call, what I'm looking for next on the agenda is approval of our June 22nd minutes.
Chair? Chair?
So it looks like Josh has our moving to make a motion.
I move to approve the June 22nd minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Caesar is a second. Do we have any discussion?
Tilly, I'm sorry, this is Aaron. Josh isn't eligible to make a motion. He was not actually at the June 22nd meeting. So it has to actually be somebody in attendance who makes a motion.
Or her, I will motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Susan.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Is there any discussion about the minutes that we might have had any issues, any changes? No discussion, then let's move to approve those minutes from June 22nd. Thank you. Moving on our agenda, it's kind of a short one today. Thank you, Susan Marie, being here as always, but I see that you've got quite a few information with accreditation. Shall we just turn it over to you?
Sure, that'd be fine. I am going to share my screen here. These are some updates that the president asked me to bring to College Council. There were some commission actions from our accreditor in June. So this is our first opportunity to report on these. And I also want to be able to introduce our faculty accreditation coordinator for the next phase of our accreditation work. So Marco Enzeris has been selected as our faculty accreditation coordinator. Marco is adjunct faculty in health and exercise science and our head women's cross country coach. He's been very involved for several years in a number of college planning and governance activities, including MPROC and Guided Pathways as the lead for our collaborative support team project. So his official work will begin this fall with the fall semester, and you can see some of the responsibilities outlined on the slide. And the key function of having a faculty accreditation coordinator is to help ensure that the faculty have opportunities to be engaged in the accreditation process and have a liaison at the table during the process, if you will. So we will start work this fall preparing for our institutional self-evaluation, our comprehensive review that will take place in the 23-24 academic year. So Marco is here with us. If he wants to add a comment.
Yes, I am. I am also with my son, who's 7 weeks old, so he's hanging out with me today. But thank you guys. I'm really looking forward to this, to work with. His name is Bo Diego, by the way. So here he is. All right, and he eats a lot all the time. I'm really looking forward to working with Susan and being able to work with the campus as a whole. It's something that I really enjoy, being able to talk to everybody on campus, especially people that I don't normally get to work with, and help us be able to do a self-evaluation and learn what we really do well, and what areas we can kind of dream about improving in the future. And so I'm looking forward to it. So thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Marco.
Welcome, Marco.
As I mentioned, the Accreditation Commission with ACCJC met in June. They meet twice a year, June and January usually. And we may have a visit from a team, we may submit a report, but nothing is official until the commission actually takes action on it. So earlier this year in March, we submitted our midterm report. We are at the halfway point in the accreditation cycle. And following the commission meeting in June, we received our action letter. So that is an update on our accredited status with the commission. They have accepted our report, and the next official action that we will have with them is to complete that institutional self-evaluation process in the 23-24 academic year. And just as a preview of some of the changes that have happened within ACCJC since the last time we went through this, and you will hear lots more about this in the coming months. They have now spread out and sort of separated the review of the report itself and the campus visit by the peer review team. So our visit is still in the spring of 2024, which is 7 years following our last one in 2017. But we will submit our report now in the fall of 2023. And the report will go through a team review along with a review of the evidence. And the visit will be a focused visit, and we'll just follow up on specific issues that are identified in that review that the peer review team wants to investigate further and have further conversation about. So it will not be like accreditation visits have been in the past for comprehensive reviews, where there's a very large team and they are looking at all of the standards simultaneously. We will know in advance which areas they are focusing on. And when we will have an opportunity to do additional preparation between when we get the feedback from the review of the report and evidence in the fall and when the visit takes place in the spring. So that's a pretty significant change. And we will be learning more about that. We will have an opportunity to go through training as a college for this new process, probably in October this fall. So look for more information on that as that gets closer. Other actions that happened at the commission meeting in June. In addition to the accreditation standards, ACCJC has policies that we are also responsible for meeting. And those policies go through periodic review, and sometimes new policies are adopted in light of changing circumstances. So these are the topics of the revisions and one new policy that were adopted this June. And this one on social justice is going to be particularly important to the conversations that we have been engaged in on our campus with the summit event that we had in May, as we look at developing an equity commitment for our college. The social justice policy from ACCJC speaks to the responsibilities of the commission, of people who are acting on behalf of ACCJC, and the responsibilities and expectations for the member institutions. So that's going to be an important reference point for us. There are also some new policies that were that received a first reading and are now open for comment for the next couple of months. The eligibility and candidacy covers the various statuses that an institution can be in. Accreditation is not an immediate event. When a college wants to become accredited, it's a process. You have to demonstrate that you are eligible, then you have to go through a period of review as a candidate institution. City College has been around for a long time, so that all happened for us a very long time ago. So our focus has been on maintaining our status in good standing with the commission. There's a new policy on advertising and student recruitment, how we represent ourselves in promotional materials, representation of accredited status. That's kind of some clarification on what some of these various terms mean. And this is an interesting new one on credit hours, clock hours, and academic years. If you know anything about the history of higher ed, you know where the credit hour system came from, and that those equivalencies are very important in how we determine how many units a course is worth. They impact transferability. Unit credit loads impact students' eligibility for financial aid. But we all have been in a very different world with asynchronous instruction, remote learning, remote services. There are competency-based models coming into play. So the commission is proposing some changes to try to address some of these. So all of this information is available on the commission website, which is just accjc.org. I'm happy to share more information. You can submit comments as an individual, or I can collect comments and submit them on behalf of the college. Those are the accreditation updates. Questions that I can answer?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So regarding, and I want to say first, welcome to Marco. But was that one of the guidelines or recommendations to have a new faculty coordinator for our accreditation process, or how did
that was not a recommendation from the commission per se. The commission does have an expectation that that faculty are engaged. It's also specified in the faculty 10+1 that they have an active role in the accreditation process. It's a practice that city has followed for a while, and most colleges follow. We also have the accreditation committee as an ongoing governance body that has representation from all of our constituency groups, and we'll be revisiting the membership of that group this fall. And then as we move into the development of this report itself, we will be expanding that to create some standards writing teams that will be kind of more temporary work groups to review information and help identify evidence. So it's more of a practice than a specific recommendation, but it's very typical for colleges to have a faculty coordinator.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Susan, I just had a maybe question, comment / whatever. So now that we've been remote, I can imagine that the commission has really had to become remote and do some alternative ways of walking through their accreditation. So I'm wondering if that might affect all of us in the future too, that maybe some of that, I mean, I'm thinking of the old days of how it was, and I know things are changing, but you know, what do we take away from this remote world that we've been in for the last so many months, right? So do you have any speculation or thoughts on that one?
They have shared that there are a couple of things in the works. They have moved their training to a virtual environment. They have presented a number of webinars on different topics over the past year and a half, and all of those recordings are available through the ACCJC website. I haven't been part of an evaluation team or a peer review team since this remote work came about. So I don't have a lot of details on how the teams have been operating. I know that they are in the process of implementing a new online platform for submission of evidence and other documentation. So we won't be, the process and the structures for submitting that information is going to be much more consistent now. And everyone will have access to the same workspace. Whereas in the past, we would have to create a space. We would have to then give the peer reviewers access to that somehow, which sometimes meant going through approvals and getting them network access or setting up an external account. All of that's going to be managed by the commission office in the future, and that should be in place by the time our visit comes around. So that definitely has been something that they are aware of and are working on. They have not yet determined whether our training in October is going to be in person or virtual. That will kind of depend a lot on how things go in California over the next couple of months in terms of potential additional restrictions if the case rates don't start moving in the other direction. But that's something they're explicitly aware of and trying to work on, but a lot of these things are in process.
Thank you very much. Other questions for Susan or Marco? Or was it Diego? I missed the first name. I'm sorry, Marco.
His is Bo,
Oh.
B-E-A-U. Part of my wife's last name, and then Diego, he's born in San Diego, so.
Well, welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, everyone.
Anything else, Susan?
No, I don't think so. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll be back again with more information in the fall.
Look forward to it. Thank you. The next item we have on our agenda is the Early Education Center's community care licensing, and that's really myself. Berta Harris is on vacation in New York, so wishing her well and having a great time. So Caesar, if you want to stop sharing for the moment, that is fine. I can cover this item myself. I don't have anything to share as far as an item, but it's just, so by moving our early education center from the place that it's been over on 16th Street between B and C, and our new center that we had the beautiful ribbon cutting ceremony recently for, now I guess it's in the corner parking lot between S&T. So by moving that, then there's some regulations that come into place and stuff with licensure, et cetera. So what I'm needing to do and move along is the dean of the school would normally become what they call the administrator for that area. Well, we're in a position where we have an acting dean and there's a lot of things that happen. So we took it upon ourselves to figure out what we're going to do. And as the vice president of instruction, I'm going to be that authoritative representative. So I really am going to just basically read to you all what I need to be highlighted into our minutes to be able to allow us to process the paperwork for our licensure and move it forward. So I will also send it to Erin Flanagan, so she has the wording, but I'm going to go ahead and just read what needs to be placed into the minutes. So thank you for the moment. San Diego City College Vice President of Instruction, Matilda Chavez, is hereby designated as the authorized representative to act on behalf of San Diego Community College District for community care licensing at San Diego City College. She is authorized to file a child care application, change of location for the San Diego City College Early Education Center for both a preschool and infant toddler licenses. She is authorized to receive and sign all community care licensing documents. Thank you all for listening. And that was the item that needed to be placed at College Council. Thank you. I think we can move on to our next item on the agenda. And that would be item number 5. We have number 4, excuse me. I'm moving forward too quickly. Demonstration on the use of dome cameras. We have Dean Robbie Ewell. And what you need anything from us, Robbie?
In just a moment, I'll need to share my screen for just a few minutes. But thank you, everyone. Welcome. The topic of dome cameras have come up, and if you will bear with me as we establish a little bit of a context as to what is coming back on our campus as something that's been there in the past. If for those of you who are been around long enough, you remember Polycom video conferencing cameras, and frankly, in the context of us working for nearly a year off remotely, off campus, we now find ourselves faced with some new challenges, some of which is a different way of providing presentations and to some degree to be really both the on-campus and the remote world at the same time. This creates a scenario, many of you have already heard the term of a high-flex learning space in which you can have your on-campus, on-site audience, as well as having a Zoom audience or a Teams audience elsewhere, all taking place simultaneously. This, of course, is very important and attractive in terms of how we are beginning to our new normal. And one other variable, quite frankly, is that as we look at our overall spaces, we are finding that we need to be flexible enough for select applications. So all that being said, what is a high flex learning space, or even for that matter, just a presentation space? It's one in which you have basically a camera in the room as well that can capture not only what's happening in that space in terms of the presenter, but also can maybe also capture those who are also online so that the parties who are actually participating locally have a full experience and that there is interactivity. To do that, it requires adjusting some of our smart spaces. And I can tell you we have, for those of you who don't know, we have roughly about 200 smart spaces on campus. Those are smart classrooms, large presentation areas, as in the Corporate Ed Center, tiered spaces, and guest conference rooms. And many of them are smart, meaning that they were smart back when we set them up within the last 10 years. We realized that we have to make them even smarter now to accommodate this new need. So if you will, one of the things we chose to do is to start to look at the ways to pull off a high flex setup. And so there are some portable ones which we will pursue. And also, quite frankly, there are some places where, let's say the Corporate S Center or the PD Center, where they're ripe for providing an avenue for people to train and get used to using this type of presentation. Now, what comes with this is, of course, the most important thing is audio. So we set up mics to add to our smart classrooms. But something that can be controversial in higher education is also the addition of cameras. And for our group, I can say that we alluded to the term dome cameras as we were trying to look at the solution. But I think that's a misnomer because it kind of gives people the wrong idea of what type of camera or what type of purpose the camera is used for. So often domes are used for surveillance cameras. They're mounted on ceilings. Most people don't know it's there, or they are apprehensive whether it's on or not. But this is an entirely different setup to some degree because these are PTZ, point, tilt, zoom cameras. They're intended to basically support the instructor in the room and actually capture. It's a lecture capture camera. And I know many of you who have been involved with instruction have been doing lecture capture for some time. So I wanted to demystify part of that, and yet at the same time to acknowledge that whenever we use cameras in a learning space, even if it's in a conference, we want to be mindful and thoughtful about really how much that has to be set up so that it is comfortable for all who are participating, and that we are not exposing anything necessarily that we would not normally. So to that end, let me provide you a very brief 2-minute overview of the cameras that we're looking at. That will be, there is a lens involved. It's a protective lens that looks what is a dome, but that's not the camera. It's just a cover. And that's there primarily just to avoid vandalism and other type of tampering with the camera itself. And the cameras can in fact be mounted to a wall or to a ceiling. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you a 2-minute video just about the camera to show you a little bit how it might be applied. And also, quite frankly, you'll hear a term FOV, F as in Frank OV, and that just stands for field of view. So if I may share screen, give me just a second, please.
Capture every lecture in true-to-life video quality with the Aver PTZ 300 series premium lecture capture cameras.
I'm sorry, folks, this did not happen during rehearsal.
Reach and captivate your audience with crystal clear visuals in full HD 1080p at 60 frames per second output resolution. Create an uncompromising multi-camera feel with just one PTZ 310 or 330. The PTZ 300 series is optimized for automatic and seamless movement between up to 4 preset areas. Face recognition technology enables users to instantly adjust their FOV to make sure everyone is centered at stunning speeds. Equipped with a powerful 12 or 30 times optical zoom camera, the PTZ 300 series provides you broad shooting capabilities, even from the back of the largest room. The PTZ 300 series innovative camera movement control allows for precise accuracy and fluid motion. At even the highest level of zoom with superior 0.1 degree step movement. Easy setup and with PoE Plus support makes the PTZ 300 series perfect for recording or broadcasting live events and live productions, such as weddings, seminars and conferences, and product demonstrations. Easily connect multiple PTZ 300 cameras to your preferred control system with the PTZ 300's intuitive multiple video output and RS232 and RS422 interface. The PTZ 300 series lets you cover every angle so you can get the perfect shot. The Aver PTZ 300 series, premium lecture capture cameras.
Well, thank you for bearing with me with that. But in essence, we want to give you an idea of what the camera is intended to do, and most importantly, to show how it is angled or what type of field of view is trying to pick up. So we certainly want to protect parties who are not deciding to go online or on camera for them to be inadvertently or accidentally or even unwillingly placed on a camera. And so you can see that from the way one would be installed, that it's really primarily capturing the lecture content. If there's a number of presenters who step forward in front of the camera, they of course know that the camera is on. The camera actually has an indicator showing that it's on. But in essence, what this provides is without having a human being camera person standing by and capturing different shots, perhaps the most advantageous part of these PTZ cameras is that video always follows audio. So once someone has been designated as the presenter, and even if they move through different, if you will, presets or frames of field, they actually will still be tracked almost seamlessly. And yes, if you're an instructor or if you're a presenter, say at the Corporate Ed Center, in which you want to have this activity recorded, in addition to being on Zoom, if that is happening with everyone's permission, this provides that capability as well. But most importantly, it is a camera that is designed not to be accessed remotely. It is not a camera that someone can necessarily control it unless you are at the podium in the room. And so any access to that signal and what that input is actually one that's going to have to come from the instructor or the main presenter, and it has to be purposeful. And therefore also can go out on Zoom simultaneously as part of a class or just a different type of presentation. There are probably much more to talk about regarding the implications of having more high-end cameras anywhere around the classroom. We want to make sure that we safeguard everyone's privacy and make sure that there's not necessarily anything that's an intrusion. And yet at the same time, I would like to emphasize that as the setups that we're looking to pursue here would be the type that would give maximum control at the podium, at the control area, and that is not something that necessarily can be easily hacked and someone is, and the camera is like madly taking a look at you or something like that. It is another tool in our toolkit. We hope that this actually would be one where we have select classrooms or more so select large multi-purpose spaces equipped to be able to do that because the needs pop up very quickly. But beyond that, we are looking to pursue roughly, I think at one time we were planning on 6, but we were going to have some conversations to see whether that is the best application at this time. But we are looking at those, and I would also add that for our conference rooms, we are looking for more portable setups that can enable those conference rooms to really also provide high flexing type of presentations as well. And sorry about the video, but I hope it gave you at least some illustration as to how that would work.
Thank you, Robbie. I do have a, and I'll see if anyone else has any questions, but you always know I have the questions too. So the students that were in the video that were sitting in the classroom, not where the speaker was. If I was a student and I began to speak or ask a question, would the camera automatically turn to me?
Not necessarily. The cameras primarily are going to target on a presenter. And that will be kind of like the way the system designed is that that person will be mic'd, and also they will be the primary. It's actually fairly sophisticated. That once that person is established, you could hand off to a second presenter, and the camera will track that person. But again, it's by clicking a switch. It doesn't really eavesdrop, hear people passing notes or anything along those lines. If not, you'll have a very weird video swinging all over the place. So the camera responds to audio, but the audio is already, if you will, pre-established as to where those zones are and who's the primary input of the audio.
And there's certain areas, I know that with guided pathways and stuff that we had talked about, or IEPI, I can't remember wherever it was coming from, but areas that are in the professional development center that's in the R building, that those are designated to be in there so that conference rooms can be utilized as we continue. Even if we're not remote, this is a great way to get more people involved, right? So that we have that capability. And I think that's what you were saying. And we have some portable or remote cameras already available that people could check out. Is that the deal? I'm not sure.
Almost right. We have 6 portable systems, which think about as being really large monitors with a webcam next to it, built into it. And so the monitors are so large, it's kind of unwieldy to just move them around all over campus. We would have to set them up strategically. But what they will do, particularly for our very heavily used conference rooms, it just gives you that capability straight away to go high flex on a notion. So it is really an enhancement. I guess we were calling it like we're enhancing our existing smart classrooms, making them smarter. But right now we have 6. We of course are pursuing a PD center. And we also want to have the favor of some conversations with various constituents on campus as we look further down this road to see how the other applications, if they are put into play, what other considerations and other things we should do to safeguard any unintended results. So we want to be really thoughtful and careful as we place these. But I would want to emphasize that the placement for lecture capture is clear. It is not, even though it may have a dome around it, it's not looking downward. It is trying to capture the FOV, the field of view, that you would have if you were an audience in the same room.
Okay, I just want to clarify to make sure the 6 portable systems that you have for high flexibility right now are not what we consider the PTZ or lecture capture or Dome. Are they the same?
They are PTZ, which means they're point tilt zoom. They will track just like the other ones, except for it's all in one contained portable unit. So, well, I shouldn't even say, it's not a small unit because the monitor is huge, but that's why it's portable. It can be brought there in a conference room or in an emergency if someone needed it in a classroom to support that same function.
How do I get to use one? Do I just call you?
That's a start. We just kicked the tires on one just last week. So we're getting them ready for implementation, but certainly just contact our office and we'll start getting it ready for parties.
Let me ask, is that similar to the systems that were used for the Chancellor's mural event?
The monitors are about the same size. They're perhaps just a little bit larger. So one monitor might actually suffice for a regular sized room. They're larger, they're thinner, therefore they're more flimsy. They can't necessarily travel well. So once we set them into a certain area, we want to kind of keep it there until we restore it back to its hangar, if you will.
Thank you. And I really think that the biggest discussion and why we're having this discussion today is I know that under the funding for instruction from our HERF dollars and such were to utilize some of these dome cameras, and it's because when we were in the middle of the pandemic, or still are, but how do we try to meet the needs of our students in every way we could, and think of when we have these different dollars that we didn't have before. And I know when I used to teach as a faculty member, I worked really hard to try to get lecture capture available to me in different places. And so we went around, we went through instructional cabinet with the chairs. I think we talked about them here. But as you said, Robbie, I think that maybe there's some misunderstandings, and myself too. I mean, the dome cameras, I just kind of thought I had an idea of it, but this was much better for me to have a better understanding. And I think even more so when I continue to use it, and maybe even as I come back to campus and say, oh, this would be a good place for something, one of these, right? Like maybe we don't really know what those spaces are yet until we come back and start to utilize it. So I think, thank you for doing the demo today. Thank you for helping us learn more. And I don't know if anyone else has any more questions or
I
thoughts.
think Nadia has her hand raised.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Hi, thank you. Thanks for sharing about the cameras and for getting us started on this. I feel, I mean, I can't not say that I feel concerned about this. It stresses me out a little as a faculty member, how it will impact teaching, impact students and rights of teachers, rights of students. Who's going to have access? Where is information stored? I don't even like recording a Zoom meeting. So I do hope that more conversations happen, especially, I mean, the thought of it in the classroom, I think I would hope that we would discuss it at Senate. I'm wondering too if AFT has been involved in any of this either. I just have concerns, and I can't not leave the meeting without really voicing that.
And thank you, Nadia. The concerns are, it's good to have those concerns because we have a responsibility to everyone. I would offer this, and it may not allay any of your concerns, but lecture capture has been around for quite some time. And of course, as we are now in Zoom world, if anything was going to knock us off our block, it would be being in Zoom squares. And that too raises many issues in terms of control and what one can do, what one ought to do. How are we making sure we're safeguarding everyone's privacy? I would also say that it is important that we also realize that this is not a surveillance camera setup at all. And so as a lecture capture setup, these are, if a classroom's equipped with this, it doesn't mean that it has to be used by the instructor. Literally, it is just providing one more thing in the arsenal that an instructor has to use if he or she should choose to go that direction. The likelihood, frankly, is that and I should say this just to make sure it's kind of well understood. I really know that this is something that needs to be in our multi-purpose conference spaces because we are conferencing, and that's how new conferences are going to be anyway. When it comes to the classroom, what brought us down this road a little bit regarding a classroom install is that some of your fellow instructors have asked for this capability. And in a sense, we looked into it first to see how technically feasible it is. And then secondly, I think we really have to still have these conversations about under what conditions does one have students and cameras and recordings, even that, let's add recordings to the mix, on the table. And whether those things should be, if they're going to happen, should they actually be part of the syllabus that no student will feel, before they agree to coming to the class, that they'll feel obligated to be in a situation that they may, for whatever reason, find uncomfortable. So and that's one of the reasons why I really want to also make sure the PD Center would be a place, a training ground, if you will, maybe even a kind of area where parties could actually get more acclimated with the technology, see the pros and cons, and quite frankly, and maybe actually have some ideas on what we need to do in terms of informing our public, our students, our patrons, what if they are in a room with this space, what type of notification do we need to provide for parties, and also how can we safeguard it? I'll just say this very quickly. Going back to the field of view, one can actually constrain the system from going outside of that field of view. So even though the camera can pivot 180 degrees, there could be certain places that if I was a student and I wanted to be involved in every way except for I never wanted to be caught on camera, for example, then I could say that there could be a place where they know where the field of view is and where it stops. So there would not be an accidental capturing.
Yeah, I just think it's very tricky territory with cameras, and it just, putting all that in the classroom just raises a lot of red flags. I think we've talked a lot about just cameras in general on our campus at Senate and so forth. So I'm just really making a plea for a lot more conversation around this. Mhm.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Good point, Nadia. And just to follow up, so you know, there is Robbie, I believe, is coming on Thursday to have that conversation with Academic Senate exec. And then we'll follow up with what next steps are at that point. And if anyone else, any other constituency groups would like to have a demo, sorry, Robbie, I'm putting you out there. He'll put his show on the road and come on out and visit, right?
Sure, and actually, as I alluded to, we did kick the tires on one of the 6 that we already have that are portable. So if we want to do a proof of concept, we can certainly provide that for someone or for a group. But most importantly, I agree with Nadia that first of all, this should never be imposed upon anyone. This should be something that if it's there, it doesn't mean that someone has to use it or turn it on. And if we deem it appropriate, if it seems necessary, we can actually have it disabled, only to be enabled when there is someone who actually is going to use it. So there's ways to make sure that this is not abused, but we should have further conversations to make sure we are seeing the entire picture from everyone's point of view and see how that could work out. And I would only offer finally that much of what we've learned by living in Zoom land and through Microsoft Teams is that part of our work experience now is being on camera, or some of our activities being on camera. And there's also the question, and what really drives part of trying to come up with a installed solution is that we don't have to, that we can be assured that on the other side of the coin, that for those students who are taking in a class from afar on Zoom and those who are local on site are getting an equitable experience, that they can actually engage one another while in those 2 states. And so but there's a trade-off with everything. So we certainly need to talk more about it and address all the pros and cons. But thank you, Nadia. I appreciate your question and concern.
Yeah, because these are, sorry, I don't mean to, I'll stop after this, but these are just really big questions that, we're all going to feel very differently about. So, yeah, we'll just.
Okay, that's why we bring it here, Nadia. Mm-hmm. Thank you. And again, and Josh, I'm going to look to you too, that maybe also from ASG perspective with students, that might be something else that we reach out to and have a little discussion as well. Just a quick thought. Okay, thank you, Rob. Thank you for all your help. Next on our agenda, and it's okay with Caesar, you don't need to bring it up, I have it, is an update on return to campus update. I believe we have a presentation from our vice presidents with Caesar. Thank you, Caesar. I know we're utilizing the one we used from our managers meeting last week, but let's go ahead and move on from this one. It's our reopen plan. And John, do you want to start us off and we all jump in, or how would you like to get started?
Sure, I can start it off, and we'll try and go in the order as itemized here by bullet points. The reopen plan, as I've been explaining, we all have been explaining to various constituency groups, has been changing regularly, as it was not static, and it will continue to change, I imagine, as we receive more information from various agencies who have been providing us with regular updates and guidelines I feel like we're all professionals at some point when it comes to COVID protocol. Phase 4, one thing that will change, a couple of things on the current version are the AB schedules, which we'll do away with since Vice Chancellor Greg Smith's communication regarding the dates for return to campus. So there will be no AB schedule. Phase 4, instead of spring, will now be on September 20th, based on Vice Chancellor Smith's email also. And social distancing will not be required, as is stated in the reopening plan, as it's not required by the state of California. And vaccinated and unvaccinated, excuse me, non-vaccinated employees and students will continue to wear masks, thereby obviating the requirement of having the social distance. But it can be enforced in certain circumstances. If you're happening to eat in the cafeteria or eating with someone, you may want to social distance, as we will not be donning masks as we're eating and or drinking. The calendar, the form stack calendar, you all may have seen. This is now an electronic format of the campus access request. Rather than go through a permission and approval process, just uploading schedules for those who will be scheduled July and August. This is a pilot for July and August. Once you input your schedule in the form stack, it produces a report for everyone's schedule that is distributed to managers and VPs, I believe, Tilly, if I'm wrong, correct me, please. And it goes to dispatch, PD, and facilities management as well. Parking will be enforced pre-COVID. So standard parking policies, please park in designated areas, respectively, for students, faculty, staff, and no parking in the fire lanes, as we have done. We've become a little lax over COVID, which is understandable because we just did not have a lot of people at the campus, and it was a little safer, being that it was a little desolate and barren at the time for safety reasons, to park closer to buildings. But parking enforcement will be citing violators for parking in the fire lane.
John, can I go back to the form stack just real quick? And that is that
Please.
the form stack is, I just want to make sure people understand it, that it is replacing having your dean, your supervisor, your manager, whoever it was that would submit daily, weekly emails to John, basically, and his staff, to say, here's who's on campus, do I get approval? And waiting for that approval. Sometimes, as you all know, we're backlogged on some of our emails, and sorry, Robbie, sometimes I found yours a couple days later, but John was kind enough to move forward, knew that we needed Thursday Tech Day to run, so you needed that to move. And that's what the form stack is really kind of pushing people, so that, like, I've already created all the days that I'm on campus ahead of time, right? All the way through till like the middle of August. So then I don't have to keep sending that. And that way I'm able to be in the office today and the air conditioner is on. I don't have to contact you and do those things. It doesn't mean it happens perfect every time, but that just allows, I just want to be clear that people understood what the form stack was for. We just didn't create another step or barrier for individuals. It's really to make it easier for us to go on campus.
So thank you for that clarification, Tilly, as I was not as thorough in communicating that. Yes, it is in lieu of the approval through the VP and then to me. And oftentimes I wouldn't see it until a day later or so. So this makes it a little efficient, timely, and more organized for everyone else. And it's easier to track because we have a database, essentially. There's a section for special requirements, be it elevator access, building access, fobs. There are expiration dates on some fobs, missing keys, whatnot. Please include that in the form stack as well. And Caesar, do you want to jump in for the signage?
Real quick about building access too.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
May I ask a question?
Please.
So when you submit your form, are you automatically approved? Or do
Essentially,
you have to wait to hear from your?
no, it's assumed that that conversation will be had with supervisors before it's input into the managers before it's input into FormStack. So no approval required outside of managers and supervisors.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I was just going to kind of jump on the building access on that. So Jocelyn, maybe that might be a piece of it is, so while some people may have access right to their office because they have one key and it goes right directly in, but if it's going through a building that they don't have master keys for, they still, that's when you're going to work with your manager, your dean, to make sure that somehow they work it out for you who's going to be doing that for you, right? So that the dean doesn't always have to be there in those days, but you've had that conversation. And that kind of goes hand in hand, right, John?
It does. And Till, you mentioned earlier, it's not going to be a perfect process. It'll take us a while to get our sea legs back. At that point, for many people, it'll be 18 months for many people who have not been to the campus. And for some, maybe a little longer. So processes, there may be some bottlenecks, but we are all doing our best to accommodate everyone as soon as we can. Anything else that we want to broach on here, Tilly? Did we pretty much cover it? Oh, signage.
Caesar, I think, was going to jump in.
Yes.
Yeah, just a quick update on signage. So we have, as you can see there on the graphic there, we have signage all across campus, just giving information to students or folks who come on campus about some of the protocols we have currently. So all must wear masks, social distance when appropriate, wash your hands frequently, and stay at home if you're sick. And so shout out to Outreach, Luke's team, and Kim for the designs and for distributing and placing those on campus. And we're also promoting this information too on our social media accounts and email communications to students and faculty and staff.
Do you want to talk about our weekly Zoom sessions?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we had 3 so far weekly Zoom sessions. We invited folks from the campus to ask questions and get answers or follow-up answers to questions they may have as we return to campus. And so these are weekly, Thursday at noon. And we also send out an email reminder about the event. It's a Zoom link. And also included in the Zoom link are the previous recordings to the previous sessions, and also a link to a Google form where you could also submit your questions that you may have. And so please, join us on Thursdays at noon. We're having those as needed right now. So far we're continuing to have these weekly Zoom meetings as permitted.
Caesar, is this a good time? I'd like to just share that we were in an enrollment management meeting on Friday, and big shout out. It was Susanna Kennemer from Financial Aid. We were talking about these Zoom sessions. We were talking about students' access, students' ability of knowing what's happening. She said, why are we doing Campus Ready for students as well? A different, version for students. So we're working on that, right, Caesar? You can't go on vacation until we get that ready. But we want to select a day. And so Josh, maybe we get a little help from you too, is do this for students and let them know what's available, what's coming, what to expect, doing the same type of sessions, but for students. Having those questions, the Google Sheet out there, questions they might ask in advance. And people might wonder, why do we do those questions? It's so that we know what people are thinking, what they might have issues with. And so that if we need to research, we can research the questions, have answers. Sometimes it's not perfect and we have to wait till the next week before we can get some answers. But I just wanted to follow up on, shout out to Susanna for that idea.
And also with the FAQs, so from our Zoom meetings, we're also developing FAQs, working on transcribing some of those questions. And, the past previous meetings, folks are having similar questions, and so we're compiling FAQs for folks to view.
And Genevieve, I'm not sure if you wanted to give a quick update on the welcome centers at this point or later. It's up to you.
Yeah, sure, I can do it now. So Luke and I have been working on welcome centers for students and faculty and staff. So there will be at least 2 for the fall. One will be centralized to the classrooms where all the instructional classrooms will be, and the other will be in the student services area. Still trying to figure out, how many we will have there. We know that there's a high volume of students and visitors who will likely come to campus to get information on how to register and how to become a student at City. So looking at that, but these welcome centers will have kind of all the same signage that, that you see here on the screen. We're going to have information for students and visitors about the health questionnaire that they should be thinking about in their heads. Do you have these, do you have any of these symptoms? We'll also have a QR code for folks to fill out a health questionnaire when they arrive to campus, if we need to do any contact tracing. And again, keep in mind too that things change every day. And so we will, this is kind of where we are now with the welcome centers. It may change tomorrow, but this is kind of where we are now. And I think there was a lot of ideas of what these might look like, as we started planning these months and months ago. Where we are now is that these will likely be kind of a hub for information for students and visitors, faculty, and staff. We'll have masks and hand sanitizers, and then information for students and visitors that might, that are looking for services, what we have available, how to contact our offices, and that type of thing. So we are working on those. We're hoping to get those up and running soon, but working through all of the little preparations to get those going. So, and you're muted, Tilly.
Thank you, Genevieve. Caesar, can we move to our next slide? John?
Yes, for mailroom, shipping and receiving actually have been here for 5 days a week for several months. That will continue. Their hours are, I believe 8:30 to 3 or 8 to 3:30. But that's 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. The mailroom for now, for August, will be 1 day on Friday. That will continue. It's been that way throughout COVID for the mailroom. And there have been special circumstances by request when we've had to come in other days, Monday or Wednesday, for special print jobs or deliveries or whatnot. But those will be our standard days and times for the month of August. The hours for the mailroom will be from 8 to 12.
And then what is not on this slide, John, I was just wondering about food. People keep asking about food.
Yes, we're getting a lot of questions, and thank you for adding that. One thing that we can confirm right now is help me with, is it the coffee store? Is that the
cafe over in the MS building? Okay,
the cafe, thank you. So that cafe and coffee services will be available till approximately 1:30, I'm told by food services.
Monday through
determined. I'm sorry.
Oh, Monday through Friday?
Yes. It is my understanding, Monday through Friday until approximately 1:30. Vending services will be available for the various vending machines throughout the campus. I don't know the locations, nor does food services know which ones. We're working with them to give them a schedule of faculty and staff that will be on campus so that they can stock those machines accordingly. And the same thing with the cafeteria. We don't know yet. It'll be based on the schedule of the campus and how it should be staffed if it's going to be open. There's no hard no, no hard yes at this point, just being assessed and we'll have more to come, and definitely an update to the community as soon as we know, as soon as possible.
Thank you. Caesar, you want to go to the next one? Genevieve, can you provide the update here?
Yes, so student services, sorry, I'm getting phone calls. Student services, we're working towards bringing back some level of in-person services beginning July 26th. So right now we have financial aid and admissions and records who will be coming back beginning that week of July 26th. We have many more student services offices who are beginning to have those conversations, and we'll be able to come back prior to that August 16th first deadline set out by VC Smith in his email. At that point, as we've been talking and going through a reopen, at that point, we will be back on campus at least twice a week. And so until then, student services is planning on ramping up student services in-person services, and will still continue to provide services remotely for students. So that will be forthcoming. We'll be sending out more information as we receive it. And then we'll be putting out information on our social media so that students are aware of which offices will be able to provide some in-person services and what their hours will be. So we're working through that now, but that is forthcoming, and we're excited to be able to meet our students where they are and provide them the services that they need in the way that they've asked for. So yes.
Thank you. Caesar, can we move to the next one? Thank you. For instructional services, we wanted just to share a couple things for people to understand, well, who's going to be on campus? We've heard from Genevieve, we've heard from John, different other areas. So what about instruction? So we have 92 face-to-face and 122 hybrid sections scheduled for fall semester. What I'd like to say is there's a couple things with that, and I'm going to, any deans or faculty paying attention, please try to be flexible as you always have been for the last over a year and a half now. We continue to be flexible as well because, as Genevieve said earlier, whatever we say right now in 5 minutes, it could change, right? The world is changing constantly. So what I'm asking is for people to be flexible on these face-to-face and hybrid. And please, please ask faculty to add into their syllabi and for them to also be ready just in case these face-to-face and hybrid need to move off campus and move back onto online if things change where we were a year ago. If that's truly what happens, it's best for people to be prepared to be mobile again, and we might have to move again. I know we've kind of had that practice in the past, but again, I just want to reiterate that. The other piece on that is that we are requiring masks to be on in everyone to wear a mask. I think John mentioned that earlier, whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated, masks are required indoors. So I would also work with the deans and the chairs to see if that's something we can please add to the syllabi. That's something to make sure that we need to utilize that as we are mandating that across the district. I just wanted to mention those. Again, building access, please work. With instruction, I'm saying, work with your deans because not all buildings are open the entire time, and they can't be when maybe we only have a couple classes at one time in the morning, another class another time in the morning. So just keep an eye on that type of stuff and making sure how to get your access through your dean. And Genevieve already covered the welcome centers. So Caesar, we can just move on from that one. Oh, a couple quick hiring updates. I think it's okay for me to go ahead. I'll be sending out an email shortly here that we have selected an acting vice president of student services. We have Marciano Perez going to come on board, so send him out some congratulations. You should see my email coming out by the end of the day today for that. The committee is working on doing a timeline, getting the search going for a permanent VPSS. Our deans, we have hired our acting deans. If you haven't already know, we have Dr. Leticia Lopez, acting dean for math, science, and nursing. We have Masa Ome, Dr. Masa Ome for behavioral social sciences and consumer family studies as our acting. And then we're just getting ready to post those positions as committees have got together. Thank you to everyone who have been put themselves on the committee, that volunteered to work with us. And the Associate Dean of Strong Workforce, that one is still going through the board for approval. We're working on that. I believe the theater technician, Dean Jeannie Tyler, has been working on that one, and that's been posted and might actually completed its posting right now. They might be moving into screening. I'm not too sure about that one. Then there's 3 faculty positions that have been moving forward. We have a photography position that should be posting anytime. The nursing position is posting on the 18th of August, and our mental health counselor also had to go to the board for reclassification. So once that goes through board dockets, that one should be posted before long. Whew. Okay, that's what I have so far on hiring. Did I miss anything, John? Genevieve or Robbie, anyone, did I miss anything on those? Let me know.
Good job.
Okay, so that's the end of our updates. Next, we have John Parker give us an update on the HERF funds.
Yes, thank you, Tilly. Everyone's favorite subject, it seems, right? HERF funds. Just going to provide a overview of what those balances are and the various funds that we have today at our disposal of what you'll see here in this PowerPoint presentation. Let me build this up. We have over $11 million, about $11.5 million, I believe, if my math serves me correctly, of HERF funds that need to be expended before the end of next year, some sooner, by June. There are three of them here that need to be expended by June, a couple in March, and some in May. I implore everyone to please get your requests in ahead of time. We are going to be monitoring, managing, tracking, assessing on a weekly basis, the VPs and I, the actual expenditures versus the respective allocations, just to ensure that we're spending them down in a timely manner and not have a repeat of HERFs 1, when upon expiration there was a flurry of last minute expense requests and we had exceeded the deadline, journal vouchers, and we just couldn't facilitate it in most instances. We tried as best we could, but their reporting requirements with the Department of Education, we have quarterly reporting requirements. Believe it or not, if it looks like our burn rate is a little low, meaning our actual expenses are coming in lower than they should, they will ask us. They will inquire as to why we're not spending the money fast enough. We're also being scrutinized for the types of expenses. These are auditable expenses, and because they're federal funds, well, the federal portions anyhow, notwithstanding the state block and the Senate Bill 85 Relief Fund, but these are scrutinized more on the federal level, and I'll show that slide here in a minute, what's acceptable and what's not qualified for an expense. So keep in mind, on a weekly basis, we'll be monitoring at the VP level. I'll produce reports with budget managers on a monthly basis, similar to what we've done the last year, our monthly budget manager meeting. This will now include HERF funds and compliance with spends. So I'll head to the next slide here. The first line, what are HERF expenditures for? You may have seen this as it has gone out to the community a couple of months ago. HERF funds cover eligible expenses incurred as a result of significant changes in instructional delivery due to COVID. That sounds like it can be a broad connotation, but The eligible expenses as defined on the Department of Education's website are those on the left column there, under the green eligible expenses for equipment, technology, tutoring, instructional training, for faculty and staff, student support activities, PPE, and additional financial aid grant to students. That would be the last alternative, because of course the students have their own financial aid allocation, which they receive. We can increase that allocation if by chance at the due date of the expiration date of the respective fund, there is a small balance, which hopefully will not be the case. And prohibited expenses are anything else essentially that are outside of the eligible expense. So an eligible expense would not include a van or a car or a fancy desk that's not related to COVID, or that was a result of COVID. If it's a dated desk, that'll be a capital expense as we would normally purchase, which would go through the district. So please, if there are any questions, reach out to me, reach out to your VPs. We still must adhere to our purchasing process, however. The next slide here, requesting HERF funds. So yes, there is an allocation process, and there still is the HERF fund expenditure form, I believe is the title of it. I'll send out a reminder to the campus again this week. What are we at, Tuesday already? So by Friday, I hope to get that communication out with an attachment of the form, the revised form, HERF request form. But please comply for timely processing. We just had for HERF 2 and 3, those budgets are loaded. They are fiscal year 22 funds. And I just want to go back a little bit. I don't think I actually discussed each of the funds. So we have 2 MSI funds. I'm just working my way from the left column to the right. An MSI fund is a minority serving institution, as you may know. So there's extra consideration for CARES Act for MSIs. This was part of HERF 1, and it's been extended. So we have HERF 2, which we received in March. I believe we drew down on that in March of this year, and it's due by next March of 2022. And we also have another MSI. We have an MSI 2. This is a new one. And we have a HERF 3. And we have the state block grant. And so what else do we have? The state block grant, we received that last year. I believe that was almost 2 years we had to spend that down. And just recently, hot off the press within the last couple of weeks, is the Senate Bill 85 Relief Fund for enrollment management, enrollment, marking, and retention. Any questions, team or Tilly, that I can answer? Anything that you would like me to review a little more in depth?
I just wanted to kind of reiterate, it's important for people to spend the money, but it's also important for them to meet with, because the money, where's the money the award letters gonna go to?
Thank you. The award letters are going to deans and VPs.
Okay.
And it's incumbent on the deans to share that with their teams. And that was intentional. We wanted it to go to deans only so that they can have the conversations with their teams.
So somebody may not realize that their money is sitting there. So they just need to have that conversation, right?
Yes, need to have that conversation, and that'll be in the communication I send out when I send this PowerPoint again. Please communicate with your deans. And I've sent 40 plus or so to the deans, and there may be 8 to 10 remaining. The MSI actually is remaining, so I have to do the MSI, and there are a few from HERF 2 and 3. I just need clarification of who it should be sent to. So if you haven't received it yet, you'll have it in the coming day, or in the next day or two.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think that covered it for me on those questions for HERF.
Great.
Thank you, John. Looking at our agenda, what was left on there is a reminder. Summer College Council meeting schedule. The next meeting date is August 3rd, August 17th, and August 31st. So we have 3 more for the summer. Well, not really for the summer. probably one more, August 3rd. And then there's some important fall dates and events that were included in the agenda that I think we're just still trying to get filled for what's coming and what's happening. Caesar, I had seen convocation on there. Was there anything that you wanted to add about convocation at this point?
No, just one quick, we'll be sending a reminder mailing out to faculty and staff, hopefully this week, starting 8:30 in the morning, and it will be both in person and online. So those folks who are comfortable attending convocation in person may attend and do so, and it will be held in Seville Theater.
Perfect.
And Caesar, that's August 19th, right? Not the 17th.
Let me see here. Is that typo here?
Yes, 17th is a Tuesday. Thank you, Jocelyn, for catching that.
It'll be correct on the invite.
It'll be correct.
Thank you.
I love that. Okay, is there anything it does? The next item is announcements or roundtable. We don't always get a chance to go there because we don't have the time, but we do have 7 minutes, and I'd like to offer if there's anyone of the constituency groups that wanted to bring anything up for roundtable announcements. Crickets. Okay, it's quiet. It's
Can I circle back on something really, really quick? And I do apologize.
Perfect. That's
So
okay.
The early child care center. So is that reopening to babies, infants, children? Will they be physically on campus, and how long does the licensing take process, if you know?
Yes, yes, and yes to all of the different ages. I do know. The licensing, so this was a piece of us hurrying up and getting it ready so that come August, that the license will already be in place so that we can take students, take children back. So they've been functioning at the other site all along, and they've really not been on site. They've been remote, right? So we've been doing out visits. So our plan is to have the beautiful center open up here in August. And in order to do that, having moving over, we had to get that licensure. So the licensure, I don't know that it actually has an expiration on it, but I'm just going to let you know for my sake, I had to go back through LifeScan. I'm giving them all my immunizations, all that type of stuff. It's like being hired as a new employee all over again. So it's very formal.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the question.
Thank you for the answer.
I see Aaron and Sean. So did you all have something that you wanted to add? Just joining us to say goodbye. Okay, nothing else. Everybody's nice and quiet, and wishing you a wonderful week. We live in a beautiful place. Go enjoy the weather. Go see the ocean.
Does that mean you're sending us home, Tilly?
Sending you home. Let's get out of here. Let's adjourn.
Thanks, everyone.